Okay, 3.5 is on what's called solving a systems of equations that have 3 separate variables. Okay, now we're going to warm up. The first few problems are actually just 2 equations with 2 variables. So it's kind of like a warm up to get to 3 equations and 3 variables. After we do a couple, I'm actually going to show you how to work these problems in your matrix function of your calculator, and you'll never turn back. Okay? So on number 1, again, 2 equations, 2 variables. You have 6x plus 3y equals negative 45. And 8x minus 3y equals negative 81. Now, what you're doing when you're solving a systems of equations, and I could solve both of these equations for y, put them in my y equals, and graph them. They're going to make 2 lines that are going to intersect. That intersection point is what you're finding when you solve for x and y. You're finding where these 2 lines would cross if you put them on a graph. Okay? Now, this says to use what's called the elimination method. What that means is your goal for your first step is to be able to add these equations straight down, and either your x eliminate or your y's eliminate. So that's the first thing you're going to check for. If I add these x's together, by eliminate, I mean cancel each other out. Okay? If I add these x's together, they're not going to cancel each other out. But what if I add these y's together? Won't positive 3 minus 3 cancel each other out? That's a great way for these to be set up for us. So if that is the case, if your problems, when you're looking at them and you say, okay, if I add those together, if either your x's or your y's cancel each other out, then just go ahead and add those 2 equations together. That's what I'm going to do on this one. Since the y's will cancel, I've got 6x plus 8x gives me 14x. Again, my y's cancel, right? Because 3 minus 3 is nothing. I don't have any y's left. Equals negative 45 minus 81, which is what you would put in your calculator. If you wanted to type that in, you would type it exactly what it said. Negative 45 minus 81, which will give me negative 126. Look what you're left with. A regular equation that we're used to seeing, an equation that just has 1 variable, the x. Solve it. So to get the x by itself, I need to eliminate that 14, so I'll divide both sides by 14 to cancel that. So now I know that x equals whatever that is. What's negative 126 divided by 14? Negative 9. So that's going to be your x. So you're halfway there, right? You got to know what x and y is. The x and y that would satisfy both of these equations. But now that I know what x is, I can go back to either one of these originals and replace that x with that negative 9. So if I do that, if I just go up to the top one, I'll have 6. Now I know x is negative 9, so I'm going to replace that x with negative 9. Plus 3y equals negative 45. Now look at this equation that you have. Again, only 1 unknown variable, which means I can solve for that y now. So just solve it. 6 times negative 9 gives me negative 54. Bring down the plus 3y equals negative 45. Solving for y, so get rid of that minus 54 with a plus 54, both sides. So now that's gone. I still have 3y equals, on the right, I've got negative 45 plus 54, which gives me 9. So 3y equals 9, which means now you need to divide by 3. So you are left with y equals 9 over 3, which is just 3. So remember at the beginning when I was explaining this problem, what are you finding about these two equations? Where they would cross if you graphed them. They are going to cross, when you're crossing at a point, right? That's why you'll see on your answer, it's going to say type your answer in as an ordered pair, right? Because if you are a point, that means you are an ordered pair with the x and the y. So it doesn't matter. Make sure you put in the right number in the right spot. Your x is -9. Your y is 3. So it would cross at -9, 3. Right? Number 2. They're not all, the beauty of this problem was this right here. My y's from the very beginning, we're going to cancel each other out, which is what you want. Okay? Obviously, they're not all going to be like that. None of them are after this. Which makes you just have more steps. Like on number 2, you have 5x plus 3y equals -11. (3x minus y) equals -1. So on this one, if I add my x's together, they're not going to cancel. If I add my y's together, they're also not going to cancel, right? So it's not exactly like the last one. But remember, what is the rule of any equation you're ever going to solve? I can do absolutely anything at all to the equation as long as I do it to both sides to keep the equation balanced. So my goal now is to make either my x's cancel each other out or my y's. It doesn't really matter. Let's just say I want to cancel out my x's, which means I need them to be the opposites of each other, a positive and a negative of the same number. So what are my numbers right now? 5 and 3. So I'm going to think, what is the first thing that 5 and 3 can both turn into by multiplication? 15. Right? I can turn those both into 15s. I just need to make sure I make one of them positive 15 and one of them negative 15. And that doesn't matter which one. So in other words, if I want to make this top x be positive 15, I'm going to multiply it by positive 3. If I do it to one side, I've got to do it to the other. So that's going to be a positive 15, which means this one has to be negative 15. So what am I going to multiply the bottom equation by to make its x negative 15? Exactly. -5. So multiply all the way across on both of those equations, then your x's are going to be opposites. So let's see up here, 3 times 5 gives me 15x plus 3 times 3 gives me 9y equals 3 times -11 is -33. Then do the bottom one. -5 times 3 is -15x. Negative times negative gives me positive 5y. Equals over here, negative times a negative gives me another positive 5. Now look at your equations. The x's will cancel each other out. So now I can add them together because my x's will cancel. So here I've got 9y and 5y, which is 14y, equals -33 plus 5 is -28. So you've made the equation just have one unknown variable, that y. So you'll just solve for it. So divide by 14. So now you've got y equals negative 28 divided by 14 gives me negative 2. So what does this mean? That's my y. Remember, you're finding an ordered pair, so you need the x. But now that I know the y, I'm just going to take it all the way back up to my very top original equation and put what I know y to be in the y spot. So if I do that, I'll have 5x plus 3 times. Now I know y is negative 2 equals negative 11. So now look at your only unknown variable. It's an x, which is what I'm needing, right? I've already got the y, I need the x. So let's solve it. I'll have 5x. 3 times negative 2 gives me negative 6. Equals negative 11. Solving for x, so add the 6 to both sides. So 5x equals negative 11 plus 6, which is negative 5. And divide by 5. So x equals negative 1. So make sure when you type in your ordered pair answer, even though you solve for y first, your y always comes second in your ordered pair, right? So your ordered pair would be negative 1, negative 2. Now, I'm going to work the same problem in the calculator, just to show you how we're going to work the rest of them. What we're going to do is create 2 matrices. We're going to use the matrix function in our calculator to solve systems of equations. So I'm just going to rewrite this problem without all the work. So number 2 again, 5x plus 3y equals negative 11. X minus y equals negative 1. So let me show you what we're going to put in our matrix. We're going to have a matrix A. Matrix A, this is like our dividing line right here, the equal, is going to come from this side of the system. You are just going to put the coefficients, the number parts in your matrix. So my first row is going to be 5, 3. My second row will be 3. What's that? Good. Negative 1. So that's going to be your first matrix. Then you're going to make another matrix and call it matrix B and put in what's on the other side of your equal sign, which is negative 11, negative 1. So let's do that first. So to get to the matrix function, you'll notice that it's the x to the negative 1 button, but it's above it, right? It's the blue function. So to get to anything above the button, you got to hit the second button first. So we're going to go second matrix. Oops, I got to turn it on first. Second matrix. Now, yours just may not have anything right here. So I was working these problems in my last class. So I got a bunch of things next to my A, B, and C. So what you want to do, since you are creating matrices, you want to make sure that you go over to edit. So hit the right arrow over to edit, and you're going to edit matrix A. So over to edit. Now your cursor should be on matrix A, so just hit enter. The first thing, when you get to matrix A, the first thing it's going to have is this little number by number up there. What it wants to know is what's the order of your matrix, or in other words, the order of the matrix is how many rows by how many columns. So this one, how many rows or how many times things going across are there? 2. by how many columns are there? 2. So the order of that matrix is 2 by 2. That's just what you want to tell it up there. So just hit 2, enter, 2, enter. Now you should see a matrix that has 4 empty spots or 4 spots. You're putting in these numbers. So up top, and it's going to go across the rows. So I'm going to hit 5, enter, 3, enter. So that puts a 5 and a 3 up top. And then it goes down to the bottom row. Put your bottom numbers. 3, enter, -1, enter. So there's your matrix A. It should be just like the board. Now, you want to do the same thing, but put it in matrix B and enter this one. So I always like to quit. So second, and then hit that mode button to quit. That just brings you all the way back to your home screen. Now I want to create matrix B. So second matrix, I'm still creating, so make sure you're going over to edit first. Now make sure you're going down to the B matrix. So just hit the down button to put your cursor on the second B matrix and hit enter. Now we're going to have to tell it the order, right? So let's see, how many crosses are there, or rows? This way. 2. Now, how many columns? Columns go like this. There's 1 column, right? 2 this way, so that's your rows. 1 that way, so that's your column. So you want to tell that matrix B to be 2, enter, 1, enter. So 2 by 1 to make your B matrix look like that, and then enter those numbers. So -11, enter, -1, enter. So your matrix B should look like that. Now we're going to do the solving. Here's how you do the solving. You're going to do matrix A to the -1, and we'll talk about that in a second, matrix B. So how do I do that? I'm going to go quit again. So second, quit. I want to use the 2 matrices that I just created. So I'm going to go back to matrix. So second matrix, but I don't want to go over to edit anymore. I've already edited them, right? I've already made them. I want to use this matrix A that I created. So you want to stay on names and go, just hit enter on your matrix A. So you should have a matrix A on your just blank home screen. Now the -1 button, you can just hit this X to the -1 button, and it'll put that -1 up there. It's right under your math button. So put that -1. Then what comes after that? Second matrix. Now make sure you go down to the second one, right? Because what do you want now? You want this one, B. And hit enter. There's your 2 answers, right? -1, -2. So it took us the longest to work that one because that was the first time we've been using the matrix function in this class. Once you do it over and over, it'll just start to become second nature. So let's look at number 3 and use the matrix for it. So 6x minus 9y equals 7.5. And 7y minus 2x equals -4.5. Now, before I enter my matrix information, look at this bottom equation. The x and y are in the wrong spot, right? You want your x's to line up and your y's to line up before you enter information into your matrix. So there's my equal sign. So I'm not carrying anything across the equal. I'm just flip-flopping these 2 terms. So if I do that, I'll have -2x plus 7y equals -4.5. So just flip-flop the x and forget about that equation. So all I did was put the x under the x of the other equation. Now I can create my matrices. Matrix A, matrix B. A is going to be 6, -9. And then remember, you flip-flop these. So now you got -2, 7. Matrix B is going to be 7.5 and -4.5. So creating, which means editing. So second matrix. So again, just second matrix. Now remember, you're editing now. You're creating, anytime you're creating new matrices, go over to edit. And I'm creating matrix A. This is also 2 rows, 2 columns. So it's also 2 by 2. So you can just hit enter, enter, because it's the same. Now just change these numbers of this 2 by 2 matrix to these. So 6, enter, -9, enter, -2, 7. So I've made matrix A. Now I need to make matrix B. So I'm still editing, right? Because I need to make a new matrix. So I'm just going to second quit. And then do second matrix again. Still editing. So make sure you go over to edit and down to B. This is where I totally screwed it up. I forgot to go down to B in my last class for some reason. It doesn't work out, obviously. So edit. Down to B, it's still 2 rows, 1 column, so 2 by 1 is good. Just enter these numbers. So 7.5, enter, -4.5, enter. So that's what your B matrix should look like. And then remember the solving part is matrix A to the -1, matrix B. So I just like to second quit to go back to my home screen. So second matrix, I'm no longer editing, I'm using. So just hit enter. Hit the -1 button, the X to the -1. Then second matrix, use matrix B. Enter, enter. There's your answer. 0.5. -0.5. Okay, now I'm not going to do number 4. It's the same exact thing. You're going to create matrix A and matrix B. They're going to be 2 by 2 and 2 by 1. Do the same process. I want to get to the 3 equations, which is actually what this lesson is. All right, number 5 gives us 3 multiple choice options and asks us which one of these options is a linear, which is an important word, equations in 3 variables, which is also an important word. So my first option is 1 over x plus 1 over y plus 1 over z equals 1. My next option is x plus y minus z equals 1. My third option is x plus y equals 1. And my last option is x equals 1. Now, 3 variables means 3 different letters, which means it's not this one or this one. They do not have 3 variables. It wants me to pick out the answer that has 3 linear equations in a linear equation with 3 different variables. This top one has 3 different variables. but it's not linear. Remember, for things to be linear, nothing can be happening to the x's or the y's or the z's. They can't be squared or cubed or in a denominator. They just have to have plain x, y, and z's. So that's why it's not that one. We'll do that one. If something else is happening to the x, that's making it not linear. So that's number 5. Number 6 says, what of the following is a solution of a linear equation in 3 variables? Now remember, when we had the 2 equations with 2 variables, your answer was an ordered pair, right? With an x and a y. When you're solving a system of equations with 3 variables, your answer is what's called an ordered triple. It's got an x, a y, and a z. So the ones with the parentheses around it, not the little, I don't know what that symbol is, not this. This is what the answers to systems of equations are going to look like. This with, we're going to solve for the x, the y, and the z. Now let's solve some of these, like on number 7. You got x plus y plus z equals 2. Two x plus 4y plus 2z equals 6. Negative x plus 8y minus 3z 5. So we're just going to have bigger matrices. It's still the same process. It's just that I'm going to be able to use my matrix function in my calculator and find the x, the y, and the z that fit in all 3 of those equations. Okay? Not using the matrix function in your calculator, you would have to add 2 equations together. I'd probably choose these 2 because my x would eliminate. But I'd still have y's and z's. So then you actually have to find another combination of equations and eliminate your x's again. Which means you would be left over with 2 equations that have y's and z's. And then use the elimination to eliminate either the y or the z. So it's a very long process, and there are so many steps that have just little things that if one thing goes wrong in any of the 10 steps that it takes, your answer's wrong, right? So that's why it's so beneficial to have this matrix function. So I'm going to make matrix A from this side of my equal sign. So the top row, if I don't see the coefficient, that just means it's automatically a 1. So it's going to be 1, 1, 1. Your second row will be 2, 4, 2. Your third row, careful with your signs, negative 1, 8, negative 3. So there's matrix A. Remember, matrix B is just the other side of the equals. So it's just going to be 2, 6, 5. Now, before I start typing in my calculator so I don't frustrate myself, I'm just going to make sure that these, I didn't transpose something or get a sign wrong or something, so I'm just going to match it up to my equations. 1, 1, 1, 2, 4, 2, negative 1, 8, negative 3, 2, 6, 5. Okay, so I'm going to put these two matrices into my calculator. So on, clear. So I'm editing matrix A. I'm making a new matrix A. So second matrix, make sure you're going to edit, right? So over to edit, matrix A. Now remember the last ones were 2 by 2s. What's this one going to be though? How many rows? This one's going to be right. 3 by 3 matrix. So that's what you need to tell it up here, because watch when you do that. It's going to turn this 2 by 2, obviously, into a 3 inner, 3 inner. So you'll see it gave you that last area to type numbers in. So your 3 by 3. Put your numbers in. It goes across the top row first. So just 1, 1, 1. Second row, 2, 4, 2. Third row, -1, 8, -3. So here's your first matrix. And then quit. So second, quit. Now I want to make this B matrix. So second matrix. You're still editing, right? So don't forget to go over to edit and don't forget to go down to B. How many rows? How many goes this way? 3. How many columns? 1. So you're making a 3 by 1 matrix for your matrix B. So just change this to 3 by 1. Which will give you the right number of spots to plug in your numbers. So what are you plugging in? 2, 6, 5, enter. Well, 2 enter, 6 enter, 5 enter. And then quit again. So second, quit. Now the same process. Use the matrices that you just edited. -1, matrix B. So second matrix. Now I'm not editing, right? I want to use this A. So I just go ahead and hit enter on that 3 by 3 matrix. Hit my -1 button. Next to the -1. Then second matrix. I want to use this B. So just make sure you go down 1 to get to your cursor on the B matrix. Enter. Enter. So there are your X, your Y, and your Z, which are 0, 1, 1. Okay. Now, I don't feel like we need to do all of them. I'm just going to do every other one. What number was that? So we'll do 9 and 11. This is all just really getting used to the matrix function in your calculator, right? So I'm going to do 9 and 11. There's nothing new on any of them. So number 9, 3x plus 3y plus z equals 11. X minus 3y plus 2z equals -6. And 8x minus 2y plus 3z equals 9. Matrix A, matrix B. So my first row of matrix A will be 3, 3, 1. My second row will be 1, -3, +2. And my last row will be 8, -2, +3. And matrix B will be 11, -6, +9. Again, I'm going to double check it so I don't start typing in the wrong numbers. 3, 3, 1, 1, -3, 2, 8, -2, 3, 11, negative. Okay. So again, you want to edit matrix A. So second matrix, over to edit, enter. It is another 3 by 3, so just hit enter to keep it 3 by 3. You're just going to replace these numbers with new numbers. So let's see up top, I have 3, 3, 1, 3, enter, 3, enter, 1, enter. 1, -3, 2, 8, -2, 3. So there's matrix A. Now quit, so just second quit. You can play that out if you want. Second matrix, I'm still editing, right? I got to make my new matrix B. Make sure you go down to B. Enter. It's another 3 by 1 though, right? It's the same kind of problem. So just enter to keep it 3 by 1. And then just put it 11, -6, and 9. So 11, -6, and 9. Now use your matrices. So I'm going to quit and go back to my home screen and do second matrix. I want to use these now, right? I'm no longer editing. So matrix A on my home screen, hit the X to the -1 button, and then second matrix down to B, enter, enter. So 2, 2, -1. Okay, I'm going to put the last one on the board and let y'all have a go at it, number 11, and I'm going to take roll, which means now you'll notice on number 11, got this random 1, 2, 3 out to the side. Those don't mean anything. That just means your first equation, your second equation, and your third equation. They don't mean anything affecting this problem since we're using the matrix function. 6R minus S plus T equals 6. 3R plus 2S minus 3T equals -3, and R minus 3S plus 2T equals -5. Okay, so again, creating your matrix from these. Now A to the -1, B. So second matrix. Now I'm using what I created. So I want to use that A, the X to the -1 button, and then second matrix, come down, make sure you go down and use the B. Enter, and there are your X, Y, and Z, which is 1, 6, 6. Okay? All right, any questions?